if the wind is blowing too hard, I just have to try to do a voiceover. Anyway, this lawnmower here. This one, I was saying that the rear end ain't pulling good. Well, I noticed last year that the starter was going out on it, and I was able to spray a little PB blaster up in there and get the starter to work again. But now it's not wanting to turn the engine over. The starter's not doing very well at all. So I'm going to pull the starter off and see if I can't repair it. If nothing else, we'll take it apart and see how it works. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hood off of this mower just to make it easier to work on. It's just 2 bolts. It looks like a 1/2-inch wrench and a 9/16 should do it. Just 2 bolts and unplug the headlights. So let me get on with that. Okay, well, what you need here is a 1/2-inch wrench or a 1/2-inch socket and extension and ratchet, and a 9/16 wrench for the inside. You got a 1/2-inch bolt head and you've got a 9/16 nut. Anyway, all I had was the wrenches. Well, that's what I had handy, and I didn't think it'd take too long with only 2 bolts. Now, this would have been a lot faster if I'd had all my tools in place, but basically you just need a 3/8-inch socket and a ratchet, or a 3/8-inch wrench, but you don't have to take those bolts completely out there at the rear, but I did just to get it out of my way. On the front are a couple of strange looking studs that a T40 Torx tip is not big enough for. It might be a T45 or a T50. I ended up having to use channel locks because I couldn't find my Torx tips that were big enough. So these little stud things on the front, they just have to be loosened up enough to allow the plastic cover to slide up. And that's all there is to removing that. Now, I couldn't see because the way the light was, the sun was in my eyes and all that. I could see that that required a Torx tip, which is a T40. However, if I could have seen better, I would have noticed that a 1/2-inch socket would have worked just fine. But, you know, hindsight's 20/20. And the only thing holding this starter in are those 2 bolts right there. And then you've got the red wire down there, your hot wire going to the bottom of the starter. That's all there is holding that thing in. You had to take all that cowling and stuff off to get to these 2 starter bolts. And then after I got these starter bolts out, I put them right back in the same hole where they wouldn't get lost. Because Lord have mercy, I don't want to have to track down bolts that fit into an engine block. Put power on the little starter and it ran good and smooth. It just don't seem to have the oomph. And then I reached up there and I turned the engine by hand to make sure when it come up on that compression stroke that it wasn't too hard to turn, and it wasn't. So I really do think my problem's in here. So we're going to take this thing apart, and if nothing else, we'll just see how it works. Okay, so I've got the starter in here in the house, and I'm just going to pull it apart, just see what we've got. I did find on another lawnmower out there, I do have a starter I can rob off of another one if I need to get mine going. But for those of you that's never tore into one of these,
Maybe we'll learn something. Maybe you won't. Maybe I'll just show you what not to do. Anyway, this is a 5/16 socket I'm using. Little 1/4 inch drive socket, 5/16. I'll be using my little impact driver. I don't know why I forget to use that all the time. It makes stuff so much quicker. Okay. Well, if I remember correctly, this is gonna not turn out pretty. Gonna have spring-loaded brushes right on the armature and all kinds of crap. So we're about to see this thing come all to pieces, if I remember correctly. Oh, we got a lot of brushes left. Huh. There's a lot there. See all them brushes? Yeah, we got plenty of brushes. So, brushes aren't the problem as far as being wore out. Well, it's a strong magnet. Don't want to turn that loose. So now what we look for, I look right in here. See if I see a bunch of crap that's overlapped those little lines in there. They shouldn't be filled with stuff. Plus it's got a lot of carbon buildup on it. I'm just looking for visual defects if I can find them. And your electricity is carried through them brushes onto here, and they've got to make good contact in order to do their thing. This bearing feels good. Well, I'll tell you what, I think all I'm going to do is just try to clean this up some. See if I can put it back together. Because I don't see a bunch of damage. I think quite simply I've just got real bad dirty connections here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean this up. We'll be back. Let me show you. Okay, well I cleaned this up as good as I could, and I don't see anything in between there. I'm just going to put the thing back together, see if it'll work any better. Got it shiny clean. One thing I do when getting ready to reassemble a little electric motor that's got these brushes in it, so I always try to figure out some way that I can hold these brushes back out of the way until I get them in place. Sometimes you'll actually see this right here will have holes actually drilled in it where you can stick a little wire or something down. Here I just wedge these toothpicks in there, and then what we try to do, of course, is to install it like so. Alright, PawPaw did it. Alright, I'm going to put me just a little dab of grease right inside of here. Not much at all, but just a little bit of grease, because that's where that shaft spins. Alright, we'll be back. Okay, what I did is I put just a little bit of wheel bearing grease inside this cup. I know that's not what you're supposed to do. For all you purists out there, you're supposed to use white lithium or whatever grease for dielectric motors. Anyway, I'm of the belief that the wrong lubricant is better than no lubricant. And besides that, I didn't hardly put any in there at all, anyhow, just enough to where it is lubricated. And let's face it, on these little starters, you don't run them long. I mean, if your engine cranks, you shouldn't be wearing on these starters. I mean, this thing's 10 years old at least, and it looks good. It was probably more sort of like corrosion than anything as far as what was wrong with this one. It's just old, like me. Alright, I'm going to take it out there and see if it'll turn over. I'll be right back. If it does, great. If it don't... Alright, well, I tested the little starter, and it turns over. And we're going to see if it'll turn the engine over now. Basically, it's just reversing the process of how I took it apart. So let me get down here and put this thing back on.
And then the frustration began. Now you would think that just sticking two little bolts back in them two holes right there and tighten them up wouldn't be no big deal. And like I said, I'd done learned that instead of having to use a Torx tip, that I could use a 1/2-inch socket. Well, my 1/2-inch socket was a deep well, so that allowed the bolt to go way up in the socket bit. Oh, I got so aggravated. I mean, this is the part where the women and children should not be around. Anyway, that's why I'm over. That's why I'm doing a voiceover. But try as I might, I could not get them bolts to start. My big fat fingers can't hardly reach in there. I need a little old kid to do it. And I didn't have a T40 Torx tip that was long enough. So what I did is I went and got me a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver that would fit up in the head of that Torx tip bolt. And that allowed me to get it started. And then I was able to, after getting the bolt started with the Torx tip, with the screwdriver, snugging them down with the socket. Then, there we go, I got it bolted on. But of course, the other day, whenever I was trying to work with this thing, I smoked my jumper cables, so they ain't no good. So we've got the starter remounted now, and the next episode it's going to be me showing y'all how to build a good quality set of jumper cables. So we'll be back as the saga of my damn lawnmower continues. Oh my goodness.
Since I'm not counting on that lawnmower to mow the yard tomorrow, this is just going to be an ongoing saga. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a sure enough set of jumper cables so I can jump over to that starter with a good connection. The solenoid going out on that little mower, I told you that mower's over 10-year old. Solenoid had gone out, so I don't start it with a key, and so I've been just running a jumper cable right off the hot post of the battery right onto the post of the starter just to turn it over and start it. But I smoked I smoked my jumper cables, but they were cheap. You can't buy good jumper cables. You got to make good jumper cables, and just keep watching, because I just ordered my clamps today for the jumper cables, and we'll be getting it put together. So just stay tuned. Ain't no telling what we're going to get into. We're going to do something even if it's wrong. Y'all have a wonderful day and a better tomorrow. Bye.